Welcome back to Code Braining. In our previous session, we have learned how we can implement linked list using Java program. And then let us recap something about linked list. So we have seen that there is a head pointer which points to first node, and when linked list uh, begins a traversal process, then it uses head to get into the first node, and then from there it can travel to the next node using next pointer. This process continues till it reaches the end of the node. The end of the node is determined by checking the null value in the next node. If there is uh, if there is a value in the next node which indicates that there will be a real next node after this. So these are all the some of the concepts associated with the linked list. Now let us see how we can get the number of items in a linked list, right? Basically, our intention is to find the count of items in a linked list. So a count can be treated, if you see, the count can be treated as a member variable of a linked list because it is associated with the linked list, right? Count, we are finding count of a linked list. So it can be associated with the linked list. So let us declare the count variable in a linked list level, in a global level, right? Int count. So I declare integer count. Now, if you see, I did not initialize it, right? Or normally we will initialize all our member variables in a constructor. I don't have a linked list constructor here because I did not create it, basically. If I'm not creating it, compiler will initialize its default constructor. That's a constructor stuff we will discuss about Java in my later sessions. But let us see, right now in count will be initialized to 0 whenever you create a new linked list. So at this point count will be 0. So you are this means what? You are going to create a linked list with a count 0 in it, number of items 0 in it, which is true, right? Whenever you create a new linked list, there is no node, there are no nodes there. So now when this should be incremented, right? Count should be incremented by 1 every time when we create a node. That's the basic theory. Whenever we create a node, it should be incremented by 1. So where is exactly the creation of node happens? It's happening here in add item method, right? You remember in our previous session we learned the add item method. Inside this add item, if you look at the line number 26, this is the portion where the node creation happens. After this node creation, in this line we can increment the counter, my list counter, right? So I am going to increment it here, my list dot count plus plus. What it means, whenever a node gets created, at that time it's going to increment the count by 1. This means count equal sorry count equal count plus 1. Okay, this is what it means. So whenever we create a node, the counter keeps track of that specific count and it increments by 1 every time we create a node. Now I don't generally in a Java world, I don't uh, like to access the instance variable directly. Okay, so let us create a access method to access the instance variable. So public int, I'm going to create a method get count. What will be the argument? Definitely it should be list. So put it here, and then it should return what? Okay, it should return count, right? So return count, mylist.count, right? Because that's part of linked list. Now let us try to call this method and print the count value. So here we can call that method, right? mylist.get count of my list. I'm passing my list from here. This is the object that I'm passing. Now let us save in maybe a temporary variable int count info equals this. Let us print that count info. Sys out number of items in a in my linked list. Sorry, in my linked list is, let us don't, sorry, let me correct it, camel case. Okay, so now let us print it. You see the count number of items in my linked list is 3, which is true, right? My data is 1, 9 and 8. So it prints the exact count of items in a linked list. So if I add one more item, what will be the count? Obviously it will be 4. So I just added one more item to it, 10. Let us play. Let us execute this program. So 1, 9, 8, 10 is the are the items in the linked list, and the count is now 4. I hope you enjoyed my session. So in my next session, I'm going to write a Java program to reverse items in a linked list. That is going to be tricky. Let us do that in my next session. Thank you for visiting. Bye.